Well, grassroots efforts to address the farm community's concerns on trade are cropping up across the country, and Americans for Farmers and Families have been hard at work organizing activities locally and also telling agriculture's story in Washington and beyond. RFD-TV's Sarah Muck has more from the nation's capital.
While rural communities and farmers across the country are worried, have some anxieties about trade right now, Americans for Farmers and Families are here in Washington advocating to get through some of those trade deals that are causing some problems here and abroad. We're lucky enough to be joined by Kevin Lawlor. He is the national spokesperson for AFF. Kevin, could you just start by explaining how did your organization kind of come to be?
Well, first and foremost, the organization came about to protect and modernize NAFTA. As we started working with folks in the States and folks here in Washington, we realized there was a much larger trade policy fight that we wanted to be a part of. These things don't happen in a vacuum. So we still exist with the main reason for being of protecting NAFTA, but also making sure that we're representing the voices of agriculture when it comes to other trade deals.
Now, NAFTA has been quite a journey over the last several months, but we've heard some hopeful statements from the president, the vice president, some stakeholders. What are you guys hearing, and do you think that we might be coming up on some kind of solution to NAFTA?
I hope so. I mean, right now what we've seen is we've seen people in the States, we've seen farmers, we've seen people in the agriculture industry, and we've seen the people who represent them really come together and say, this is remarkably important to the agriculture industry as it relates to consumers, as it relates to jobs, as it relates to just about everything in the economy, and people are hearing that. So we think we've been pretty successful thus far, and we're going to continue until we get to the point where we have a modernized NAFTA that benefits the industry.
Could you explain why NAFTA is so important to rural communities?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at industries from agriculture to retail where you have a significant amount of jobs that are coming from it. You have a significant amount of work product that's coming from it, and it's really at the heart of these communities. But it's not only the people who are in that industry, it's also the people that benefit from the competitive pricing and people who benefit from the job creation, whether it's transportation or retail or agriculture. And they've really come together, particularly under this AFF banner, and they've said, listen, we want to advocate for these things and we want to talk to our representatives, and that includes all the way up to the president, and let him know how important something like NAFTA is.
This is not just kind of about being part of the group or putting your name on the list. This is about kind of active work, writing op-eds, calling local congresspeople. Could you talk a little bit about maybe what some tips on what farmers can do to really make it feel like they are part of this conversation?
Sure. Well, I mean, first, definitely check out the website, right? There's enough information on it about the industry and how to connect with your representatives, and just sharing your story. A lot of people don't understand how trade policy actually affects the industry themselves, but that can be very easily explained. And when people get a look at it and they say, this is how a tariff affects me, or this is how a trade policy affects me, and you can tell that story better than anybody else, then you're the one to do it.
Absolutely. Farmers are always the most effective storytellers, especially when it comes to trade. Again, thanks to Kevin Lawlor. He is the national spokesperson for Americans for Farmers and Families. We'll have more updates for you from here in Washington throughout the week. But until then, back to you in the studio.
Thanks again, Sarah. Well, to learn more about the organization or to join the coalition, just visit AmericansForFarmersandFamilies.com. Well,